He's just coming in. Please put your hands together and welcome him. And I invite Mr. Suresh and Professor Mahesh to come onto the stage. And it's now over to Professor Mahesh.
Thank you. Good evening, and it's a delight to have this conversation with one of our most accomplished alumni, Suresh Kumar, who is the Global CTO and the Chief Development Officer for Walmart. It is the go-to place for some of us grad students who landed up there on a little shoestring scholarship and needed to buy a lot of stuff. There's a lot of tech that goes behind running an operation like even just a single store, leave alone a national network of stores. And Suresh is responsible for gazing into the crystal ball to see where this technology is headed and to sort of take steps to get the company going in that direction. He was a student just like you in the year 1983 through 1987. He was probably seated in an auditorium like this, the CLT probably, and just as you are seated in the audience today listening to Suresh, one of these days, I expect some of you back and to be seated here with the then Dean, having a conversation with the students of that day in audience. So let's get started. You know, Suresh, you were an aerospace engineering student here from 83 to 87, and today you are you're responsible for one of the largest companies' tech growth. How has your career been? We've seen the LinkedIn side of things and we've sort of followed what you do, but what have been some of the pieces of the puzzle that fell in place along the way that made this growth happen for you?
So first of all, Professor Mahesh, thank you for this, and really good to see all of you students over here face to face. It's been 2.5 years since I traveled, and to make this as one of the first things that I'm doing when travel has opened up is really, really just fantastic. Just came back from even seeing my old room. The number has changed, but everything else remains the same. So fantastic to be back in the campus, back with all of you. So you said about my career. Now, one thing that you can see when I reflect back on my own career is that it has been anything but linear. So I never imagined that when I was one of you sitting in a classroom or in one of these auditoriums that my career would pan out to be exactly the way in which it has panned out. You know, I spent, so like a lot of us, after graduation I went to the US, I did my PhD, and then I joined IBM thinking that my career is primarily going to be in research. So spent a bunch of years in research, but one of the things that kind of struck me when I was doing research is that I was doing really, really impactful stuff, but not necessarily very close to where the customer was. So that was missing. This is the time that the internet was taking off. So I decided to leave research and jump right into a relatively unknown company at that time called Amazon.com. Spent 15 years over there, really actually just building something that was brand new at that time, that had not been done. So a lot of fun, thinking about brand new things, thinking about even existing things in very different ways. But I tell you, at that time itself, Walmart was one of the strongest retailers in the world. You know, working at Amazon gave me a keen appreciation for what scale really was, and you know, Walmart really represented a lot of what at that time Amazon aspired to be. After 15 years at Amazon, see, one of the things that I would always do is that once you keep doing something for a period of time, you need to grow, right? So within Amazon, I did a lot of different things. But then after 15 years, I said, okay, I want to do something completely different. Cloud was coming up to be something brand new. So then I went and joined Microsoft and led their cloud infrastructure for about 5 years. It was something brand new. It was kind of reinventing how computing was being done. So I did that for about 5 years or so. Very different from retail, but a lot of very similar things in the sense of, you build for scale, you build something brand new. So you can think of these as sort of common threads that kind of went through around scale, around doing new things for the customer. And finally, and then after a short sprint at Google, I landed up at Walmart, because Walmart truly is about delivering for the customer. It's about impact and scale in an area that truly matters to the customer. So you talked about, as a grad student, you went there. At that time, it was about low prices. It has always been about everyday low prices. But how do you deliver quality merchandise at scale across not just the US, but outside of the US as well? Really is at its core a lot of different technology problems that come together, and that's what that's what my team is really focused on. And so, if you look at the career really from the outside looks like many different arcs, but there are some common threads that go through it, which is about how do you take technology and apply that to challenging areas of scale and impact.
Very interesting. Technology and scale, those are two things. I think we are sort of getting used to that thinking. What at IIT Madras you can attribute to as where the seeds were sown for this kind of thinking?
Yeah, look, I think there is no doubt in my mind that my 4 years at IIT Madras were the most formative years. And when you all go back and when you graduate and you are in whatever distinguished careers that each one of you are going to carve out for yourself, you will definitely look back and you will agree with me that the time that you spend at IIT Madras really ends up being some of the most foundational years. And for me, when I reflect back, two things stand out. One, I learned over here what it really means to strive for excellence. And, it was not necessarily obvious at that time, but looking back, each and every one of you will go through the same thing. It's not just about learning something rote, but it's about deeply understanding and understanding the implications around it as well. The second thing that really stood out over here is, being surrounded by people with really deep expertise, not just faculty and staff, but a set of peers and a set of students who, in their own respects, really represented the core of what it means to strive for that excellence, what it means to excel, and those are really the formative years, which you can see kind of being repeated again and again as the fundamental building blocks of any part of my career, or I'm sure that you will see the same thing kind of being repeated again.
Very interesting. I think, as an alumnus, I can vouch to some of the things. The group of peers that you live in the hostels with, right, the conversations in the wing are extremely enriching, aren't
That's
they?
exactly right. Yeah. And people from very different backgrounds, very different areas. The first time for me and for a lot of my peers, kind of getting out of, I grew up in Bangalore, so, coming out to a different area, being in touch, coming in contact with students from all over the world, all over India at that time, exchanging ideas from very different backgrounds. That builds you up, and that kind of diversity of thought and diversity of experiences really enriches you. And that's the same kind of stuff that we see actually builds up in the industry as well. See, one of the things at Walmart we constantly keep looking for is diversity. Why do we do that? Is because when you put people, passionate people together from very different backgrounds, then you start ending up getting really innovative ideas, really new types of thinking. And that I learned over here.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think IIT is still a brewing pot where students can come, brew themselves into a really nice, forward-looking adult and graduate out of here. I think that's the message. Let's switch gears a little bit and look at where the world is going technology-wise today. You are the CTO of Walmart, a Fortune 1 company. And I don't know if in the year 1987, Walmart had a CTO. So I'm assuming they didn't. And I think many companies didn't.
Yeah.
So you are in a role that didn't exist when you graduated. And presumably 25, 30 years from now, you are also going to be in roles that don't exist today. And it's known today that 2/3 of the workforce in India works in roles that didn't exist when they graduated out of college. What do you see as the roles in which these guys and girls should be looking to? Where is the world going? We talk digital all the time today. Where is it going and where will it take us?
Yeah, see, of course I don't have a crystal ball. And so it's always very dangerous to predict the future because it will come back and bite you later on. But few things are very straightforward, right? First is that when we, at least from my vantage point, one of the things that I see is that, the capabilities of compute is increasing basically exponentially. So capabilities that we did not think were possible forget about when I was a student, but even a few years ago, are now becoming not just possible, but they become part of the society itself, right? So even 10 years ago, or even 20 years ago when I was at Amazon, e-commerce was just starting. But, there was no Google, there was no Maps, there was no Uber, there were certainly no, driverless cars. We didn't have smartphones that you could carry around. So what is one thing that's continuing to accelerate? It is the availability of deep compute that is becoming more and more ubiquitous. That unlocks a lot of capabilities. How exactly those capabilities are going to evolve, that really depends upon how customers, society, and corporations at large are able to adapt and harness into this compute power, right? So compute power and compute capabilities are going to continue to accelerate. So that much we can be very clear about. The use cases are the use cases that we cannot directly imagine. Many of you will actually invent a lot of these things as you go out. And it's not just about computer science, but I'm talking about how technology is actually going to end up impacting society. The second thing that seems to be very clear is that adoption cycles are shrinking very dramatically. When the PC came out, it took a long time for it to become kind of ubiquitous. So when I was over here in IIT Madras, PCs had just started, but it took a long time before you could start seeing that in every desktop. Yeah. But when the latest app comes out, it gets viral within the matter of few weeks at the most. It's available for everybody, right? So as some new piece of technology comes out, the time for adoption dramatically shrinks. So these are sort of the two major things that we see, but that are going to continue to play an important part in how technology is going to influence society at large. Within that, a lot of innovation is going to continue to occur, and all of you are going to be the people who are going to be innovating in that background.
So that whole growth story that we see for technology itself and the way it is going to shape, mankind and our habits and our lifestyle. What are some essential things that you think students should sort of aspire to pick up while they are still here? You talked of excellence, right? What are some other things alongside that they should pick up? I think all of us need a take-home message.
Yeah. So the advice that I always give either to people who are just starting out on their career, students, any one of these, is that two things. First, the world is getting more and more interconnected. So be curious. You will find relationships between areas that you would have never imagined, or, think of the entire knowledge that you're gaining as a very large knowledge graph. So you may be learning, structures in aerospace in one area. It actually has tendrils to all kinds of things, right? Through finite element, you can get into computer science, and, through computer science, you can go somewhere else. Knowledge is extremely interconnected. So be curious. That's the only way in which you can adapt to this very fast-changing world, right? That's the first thing that I would say. The second thing that I would say is that just curiosity alone is not going to be sufficient, because what it will do is that it won't ground you, right? So you won't really actually know anything to a great deal, because you will keep hopping from one part of the node to another in your knowledge graph. So the other part of it is have passion to learn and to absorb something as deeply as possible, while being curious about all of the tendrils that it's going to lead you to. And if you have those two, one part of it is going to ground you so that you can get deep expertise in a particular area, but you won't get a kind of siloed into that. If you're curious, you will notice that one particular area is interconnected to all kinds of things around the world. And that is going to enrich you, and it's going to make you adaptable as well.
So to do the things that you're describing, I'm thinking there's only 24 hours in a day, right? I'm sure you work very hard. I've seen people at the level at which you operate. How would you suggest a student should manage their time? What is a simple rubric to sort of manage a week or a day to do some of the things you are asking them to do?
I think the first thing is that you should strike a balance between not taking yourself too seriously, but not taking it too lightly either, right? So you're all here because of your hard work, right? So clearly you had to put in an enormous amount of effort to get through JEE, to land yourself over here. So you know what it takes to actually put in that level of effort, right? But there are constraints, right? So now that you're over here, you are actually surrounded by the best faculty in the world, the best capabilities in the world, right? And peers that have been culled out of perhaps the most difficult process possible. So make use of all of those connections. Make use of those connections with enough. Leave yourself enough. Enough areas for serendipitous interactions to occur. Right? Hard work already gets, comes to you naturally, otherwise you wouldn't have been over here. So you already got one part of that. Now that you are here, open yourself for these happy coincidences to occur.
Yeah.
The best things that I remember from my 4 years are the relationships that I built up, not necessarily because, I was in the same class or anything of that sort, but, they happened just because of the fact that I was over here.
Yeah.
So keep yourself open to some of those things, and they will happen naturally enough.
Yeah.
If only you're open enough to that.
Yes. So I think meet strangers, make friends, and just talk to people. And I think there's a lot of ideas that will come from
That's right.
from doing that. So I think, and one last thought on the idea of being part of a large company versus a startup. You've been in, as you said, Amazon.com when they were selling books.
Yeah.
And today you are leading one of it is in fact the largest company in the world. What are some differences you see in the culture between these kinds of companies, so students are aware when they choose companies?
Yeah. So I get this question a lot. More than the differences, I think one of the things that struck me as I was, I've been fortunate enough to be associated with many very, all the companies that I have been with are extremely successful companies. So, yes, there are many differences in terms of how every company thinks about its culture. At Walmart, our culture is defined by our obsession about our customer while making sure that we have respect for the individual. We place a lot of emphasis on how we treat people. All of those things are there, and there are different flavors of that in every company. But the things that are common are, to me, the more interesting things. And the things that are common are, successful companies have culture that really attracts people who are passionate and who, are mission driven. They come to work not because it is a routine 9-to-5 job, but because they believe in something that is much deeper than that. At Walmart, the mission really is to help people save money so they can lead better lives. It's a very noble mission. It's a noble purpose. And everybody at Walmart truly believes in that purpose. Same thing, right? So most successful companies, the culture is really built around a purpose or a mission that is much deeper than just simply a job or making money or something like that. That is one part of it. And second part of it is that what I have noticed is that culture is actually built by a set of very talented people, right? So you're surrounded by extremely talented people over here, and most successful companies also are built around people who are both passionate and extremely talented. And that is the core of every culture. There may be differences in terms of execution and focus and so on, but the ingredients are the same.
Yeah. Find a company whose mission you are passionate about.
That's right. That resonates with you.
That resonates with you.
Yeah. And make sure that you surround yourself with people that are equally passionate and talented.
Yeah.
And you will learn a lot more.
Okay. My last question, so we're going to come around to, to the audience, to the students, especially with questions. Is a Godavite. Anybody here from Godav? All right.
Excellent, excellent.
Okay. So hostels are places where we make a lot of very fond memories. I was in 252 Ganga, which I don't know now is a different room number, as he said, but we made extremely indelible, long-lasting memories. Can you share some of your hostel memories?
Well, I was in 255 Godav. I went there, but it's not called 255 anymore. I don't know why the numbers have all changed. But yeah, my WhatsApp group is still with all the Godavites from my batch. I'm going to be meeting, hopefully, 3 of them on Friday. I just met 3 of them in Bangalore last week. So you're right. These bonds stay with you for a lifetime. Many fond memories, right? So all the rocket matches during the Diwali time frame. I was just telling, one of the Diwali matches, a rocket fired from Saras actually just landed directly into the room, right? It went through the grill and landed in the room. But I think the most favorite memories were that of Quark, right? Late night, trying to mug up before the exam, All doesn't really matter. Who cares whether it's exam or not? The important thing is, late at night, go to Quark. That's where I had my first pizza.
Wow.
And then come back, and we used to play. We used to play bridge. So we had bridge sessions that would go throughout the night.
Good. So we'll now open the floor up for questions. There's a mic there. Anybody wants to ask a question? Raise your hand. Yeah, here. We'll start off here. Now, I'll briefly, while you're getting ready to ask the question, the Walmart India team is sitting in the back there. There's Hari, Tathagat, and others. You can interact with them as well later. So think of this as a part pre-placement talk.
Nice.
Yeah, hello sir. So sir, as you have worked in all these corporates and have gained a lot of experience, right? So have you never thought of starting up on your own?
Yeah, look, every person has got particular things that they're passionate about. For me, the thing that I like a lot is actually not just building things myself, but helping other people to be able to innovate and to be able to build new stuff. And I find that I can do that much more effectively in the settings that I have been in. And if I look back, the things that I feel really good about are those where it's less about me doing stuff, it's more about helping others be able to build stuff and to be able to innovate and to be able to do new things that they haven't been able to do before. And for me, it's a lot easier for me to do that in a corporate setting.
Right.
Sir, you have worked both in Amazon and Walmart, so you might have met both Sam sir and Jeff sir, right? So what is one of the best quality which both of them possess?
Yeah, I haven't had the good fortune of actually meeting Mr. Sam. He passed away long before I joined Walmart.
Okay.
But Mr. Sam's legacy is very, very strong within Walmart. In fact, I just opened our new offices in on Noema Road, and our entire culture is actually really based upon some of the core founding principles that Mr. Sam laid out. And when I compare, both Jeff and Mr. Sam, who are really extraordinary entrepreneurs in their own right, again, the similarities are that they are passionate, they are driven, they are individuals who had a strong vision, and they got the right people together to be able to execute on that vision. So different circumstances, right?
Okay.
But very very deep entrepreneurs in their own rights.
And my second question was like, how do you establish culture in a startup? There are two options. Either you go to your friends and ask them, I'm building this thing, are you interested in something? Or you keep on working and one day you show up somewhere that he has built such a great company, so we shall join that company. So which path you will choose? Either attract audience or you build upon something?
See, it is important that, you have a clear idea about what are some of the values that you want to embody.
Okay.
That's what defines culture more than anything else, right?
Okay.
Culture is defined by a set of norms that you want people to be able to follow, and equally by a set of norms that you don't want to incorporate. And that is very deliberate. It cannot be done by just getting a bunch of people together and trying to either come up with something new or build something. It doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
You have to be very explicit about what things really matter,
Okay.
and embodying them in a set of norms.
Okay, so like would you like to continue as a solopreneur until you find that particular person who you want to be part of? Or
No, it's not black and white, the way in which you are describing. If you want to, whether you want to do a startup, whether you want to be part of a company, it is important that you have enough clarity about what are the things that truly matter. And when you find yourself surrounded by a set of people who think in a similar way, then a lot of magic starts happening.
Hi sir. So you started off studying aerospace engineering here, then went into IBM and did research. Then you joined Amazon as the software development. Then you went into retail services.
Right.
Then you joined Microsoft and went into cloud.
Yeah.
So you've been learning about different domains.
That's right.
And you spent a lot of time in each domain.
Yeah.
Didn't you at any time feel like this domain is like a good fit for me and I'll settle here? Or like the change you had to move, like you had to start from ground zero and learning. How did you go about doing that?
Yeah. This is what I was trying to talk about, is that there are some very common themes throughout all of these. The domains are very different, no doubt about it, right? So retail is very different from cloud services and so on. Two things. Part of it is, it's like it's like going from one place to another. You put your foot on one thing, on a piece of solid ground that you already know about. But if you just stay over there, then you don't grow very much. You have to put the other step in a different spot, and that really is what growing your career for me has been. It's not to say that everybody needs to do it that way. For me, one of the satisfying things is to take ideas from one area and apply that in a completely different context.
Yeah. With that as your core skill, you would have made a great professor. Just to that's one of the core skills of professors. And we are also notorious with switching areas every so often because of this thirst, so to say.
Hello, sir. So, Jeff Bezos said that instead of focusing on things that will change, there are some things that don't change, like the customers want cheaper products, diverse products, and timely delivery. So, what other things do you think won't change in the future?
Yeah. Look, focusing on things that are going to be long-lasting. This is a recipe for building for the future. It's not just, clearly Amazon has articulated that, but this is something that a lot of successful companies actually do. Even Walmart, we also focus on things that truly matter, and that truly matter to the customer, okay? Because that's the only thing that matters in the end. Now, when you look at what truly matters to the customer, clearly, within retail, let me talk first, and then I can talk a little bit about the broader purpose of what we are trying to do at Walmart. From a retail perspective, what do customers really want? They want access to quality merchandise, first of all. Secondly, they want great value. Okay, so where the whole pricing thing comes from. But it's more than price. It's you need to have value, right? Third thing, they want convenience, right? In an e-commerce world, convenience equates to speed of delivery and so on. But the world is very rapidly moving away from, a different silo for e-commerce and a different silo for stores. People don't make that kind of distinctions anymore, and we see that accelerating during the pandemic. What truly matters is friction-free experiences. Convenience is what matters. Few other things matter now. During the pandemic, we learned very quickly that what matters is also trust and safety. Okay, so how do you get access? Is it, am I getting access to products that I can trust? That becomes very important, right? Can I get access to services in a safe environment? That becomes very important, especially during the pandemic, right? And we are also seeing now that in an increasingly interconnected world, right, it's a social act, right? you see Pinterest and you see Instagram and all that. Why do these things become very important? Because you want to say, hey, I bought this new jacket and I want to take a selfie and I want to share it with everybody else, right? Or I want to see who else has got something, and so I want to either emulate that. I want to get something similar to that. So there are a social aspect of it as well. These things, I think, the execution or how they evolve may change, but the need to have access to quality merchandise, that will not change. The need to get value for money will not change. The need to have a friction-free, convenient experience, that will not change. Trust and safety will not change. The need to share, that will not change. Those things will always remain constant.
Sure. Thank you. So we have maybe time for 2 questions. So, did you have a question? Yeah, let's go to her first, please.
Good evening, sir. I'm Shreya. So my question to you is, you were initially an aerospace engineer and then shifted your career towards the software side. So what are the difficulties that you have faced in this process? And could you also give few suggestions or tips to the non-CSE background students who aspire to have a similar successful career?
Okay.
Shift.
Look, for me, the important thing was not necessarily computer science from a pure theoretical computer science perspective. Those are interesting problems, no doubt about it. But I was always interested in sort of the practical applications. And in fact, when I was at IIT, I was always fascinated by the intersection between computer science and aerospace. So finite element methods and fluid dynamics.
What was your BTech project? Do you remember?
Aircraft design.
Aircraft design. Okay.
And it was aircraft design that was that was done through a combination of at that time there was no AI per se, but expert system aided aircraft design.
Very nice. Very interesting.
So I was always interested in this intersection because what fascinated me was not pure computer science, and what interested me was not also pure aerospace engineering, but I was always fascinated by these overlapping areas. So that's where I naturally gravitated to. And after I graduated, after I did my PhD was also in one of these weird, combination areas. My research was also like that. And one thing leads to another and so on. See, computer science is now ubiquitous. When you just think about the influence of computing, that has become ubiquitous. Well, I think what distinguishes is the practical applications of this on different industries. Every industry, every company now is a software company. So there is that part of it has become routine now.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir. Here.
Yeah.
So, as you said, you're opening up offices in OMR, right? So, considering that you're expanding in India and moving forward, I wanted to know which problem statements you're focusing on as of right now, or any big prioritizations that you're looking forward to?
Yeah. See, the nice thing about our presence in India, first of all, in Bangalore, we have had offices for the last 13 years. Okay, so 2007, 2008, I think is when we started. And we have grown that. Ever since then, every year we have been growing in Bangalore. And about 2.5 years ago, we decided that we want to really tap into the talent that's available in Chennai. We have been very, very deliberate about making sure that the talent that we saw both in Bangalore and in Chennai, we don't want to narrow down to 1 or 2 areas. We want teams to work on all different areas. And in fact, I spent a few days in our Bangalore office, and I spent a day here. The important thing is that these are areas, these are centers where we are working on every problem that is of interest to Walmart. So I'll give you a few examples, right? on customer experience side, we are working on personalization algorithms that truly predict and adapt to the behavior of what our customers are doing and what they are interested in. At the same time, we are also working on supply chain problems, which are deep optimization problems around how you combine sort of an e-commerce oriented supply chain, which is all about moving eaches, to a store supply chain, which is really about moving products in bulk. How do you combine these things together? So we are working on those types of problems as well. Two, we are working on areas on the finance side, people side. So every area that is of interest to Walmart, health care is another major focus for us. All of that is represented in our India centers. And that's very unique, by the way. No company does that. This is something very unique that we are doing here at Walmart.
Very, very interesting. It's been a wonderful time chatting with you, Suresh. I'm sure the students you've sort of kicked their gears into motion. They have their work cut out. I think one of the privileges of being a student at an institute like IIT Madras is to be able to listen to people like Suresh, up close, personal, and learn from their life experiences. We have 50,000 alumni and only 120 distinguished alumni. You know how difficult it is to become a student and then an alumnus of IIT Madras, and only 100 out of 50,000 become distinguished alumni. And we make an effort to our office to bring such people to talk to you. So please make an effort to come to gain the most out of this. There are hundreds of thousands of people, students just like you out there, who don't have this privilege. So feel fortunate, and the objective of this is so you can one day be in this chair where Suresh is, and communicate to the students of that day what it takes to be successful. Okay, good luck. Thank you very much, Suresh, for the wonderful time. Appreciate it a lot.
Thank you. And good luck to each and every one of you. You have made it all the way to the best institution in the world, and now the whole world awaits you. So good luck, and I hope to see some of you at Walmart as well.